Hi, I'm Lance Lambert. Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Vehicle Show. We are in Everett, Washington at the Cruisin for a Bruisin car show. This is put on by the Rooks Car Club. It is a fundraiser for the Jet City Rollergirls. This is a roller derby league. Lots of great women in this league, lots of great teams in the league. You're going to meet some of these women, meet some of the car owners. You're going to have a great time. So do what I tell you to do every week. Just kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. You have a very interesting name, you have a very interesting car, and you have a very interesting job. Sassy Pants, tell me about the Jet City Rollergirls.
Jet City Rollergirls are an Everett-based roller derby league. Roller derby has made a big comeback the last year. This particular league, we have 4 teams. The 4 teams within the league bout or play each other. And it's all-female sport, an all-female league, female-run, female-owned, and very empowering for the female.
It seems that about 4 or 5 years ago I started hearing about roller derby coming back on the scene, and it seems to get a lot of press now, at least in the Pacific Northwest. A lot of news articles, a lot of television coverage. How did that happen? Who decided that roller derby needed to come back?
The movement started out of Austin, Texas, actually, like you said, about probably about 6 or 7 years ago, actually. It had a really small grassroots movement, kind of sprung up around other parts of the league, including Seattle. Rat City Rollergirls, our sister league, have been around for about 4 years now. And I like to call it the fastest growing extreme sport in the country right now, because it is, and there's now approximately 70 leagues nationwide, including ours.
We're going to talk in just a bit with some of the members of those various teams, but in the meantime, tell us about your beautiful 1955 Buick.
This is my 1955 Buick. Her name is Queenie. She's a 4-door hardtop Buick Century Riviera, kind of a rare 4-door model. I've owned it since 2000. It's a Yakima car. It came from Yakima, and I'm the 3rd owner. Has all original stock upholstery. The car is very, very stock. Still has the 322 in it, still has the old oil bath, has the Dynaflow transmission, and I just pride myself on keeping her very original.
This particular show is being helped in part by the Rooks Car Club, and I know they're into traditional hot rods. This, you're not covered in a coating of primer on this, but you have the side pipes and some of the other cues from back in the 50s. What is it about? Of course, there's a lot of cars nowadays at the car shows that have lots and lots of styling cues that have held up since the 50s, but these cars in this culture within the car hobby, they seem to really grasp a lot of stuff from what we think of as, say, the JD movies, the juvenile delinquent movies from back then. A lot of styling cues, a lot of that kind of excitement. What is that appeal?
I think the appeal is most of the people in the rockabilly movement, as we call it, like the old the 50s exploitation films and the juvenile delinquent films and stuff like that. We're kind of rebel rousers in our own way. We all have regular day jobs for the most part, but we like the subversiveness of that kind of counterculture aspect to the 50s, and so we more or less emulate it. We add our own touch, of course, and modernize stuff, but we really do appreciate the cars of the 50s and the stylings that Barris did, early Roth, and people like that.
But they didn't all have tattoos back then.
No. That's definitely something that kind of came about in the neo-rockabilly movement in the early 80s. The Stray Cats made it really popular. And it was kind of mixing punk with rockabilly. And now, of course, we call it psychobilly. And that's kind of the movement. It's one part traditional rockabilly, one part punk. And you add the tattoos and voila.
Well, I'm here because I think it's a really fun part of the car culture, so thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show. We're talking to Duke with his 41 Chev pickup with the Deuce grill on it. Duke, a pretty interesting ride you have here.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about how this came into your stable.
Oh, wow. Well, I'd sold one of my other trucks, and when I sold that truck, I went to a car show down in Tacoma to look for a vehicle. I wasn't sure what I wanted.
Let me guess, the Autorama?
Yeah, Autorama, yeah. So I went down there and looked around. I wasn't finding anything. Oddly enough, as I was leaving at the end of the day, this was parked about 2 spots down from my car, and it had a for sale sign on it. My son looked at it and said, "Dad, there's a car for sale." I'm like, I can't afford that. I looked at the sticker on the dash, and I could. So I picked it up, brought it home. Since I've had it the last 2 weeks, I've rewired it. I've painted the dash. I've put hardwood floors in it, in the cab and the bed. Dialed in the engine.
I noticed you have a Rooks jacket hanging on your seat there. Are you a member of the Rooks Car Club?
Yeah, actually, I was a founder of the Rooks Car Club in 1999. Myself and about 3 or 4 other folks, including my wife. We've been putting on charity car shows twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year since then. And we're still small, but we still do what we can for the community.
I'm going to run the risk of upsetting a couple of viewers maybe, but you are kind of the traditional hot rod club in the Pacific Northwest or Seattle area, aren't you?
Well, it's tough to say. I wouldn't say the traditional hot rod car club, but we're just an old style car club. We kind of took the idea of using the LA, East LA type car clubs that were family oriented, that had everything from 4-door lowriders to hot rods like this. We work directly with the community. So I guess if that's old school, we're old school, I guess. Sure.
The Rooks Car Club seems to be made up of a lot of cars that are in various stages of construction or primer, a real interesting mix of various parts that eclectic might be a right word. But I love the look. I absolutely love the look. I like the whole, the cars, the hairdos, the tattoos, the whole thing. I know that wasn't an overnight creation within that culture, but how did this all sort of arrive to this is the look and this is the style?
I don't know. It's hard to say, because the style, the style is just kind of what I enjoyed, the way I enjoy looking. And the cars, they're homespun. Not a lot of us have a whole lot of dough to spend. We're just working class kids, and we piece them together on our own.
Well, the 41 Chev that you have here looks like you have a Buick motor in it.
That's true. It's a 401 Buick out of a 63 Wildcat. It's the same Dynaflow transmission that was in the Wildcat as well as the rear axle. It's got a Lunati cam in it. It's a fun little car. Yeah.
Future of the Rooks Car Club, what do you predict?
It's going to be around as long as I'm around. It's had its ups and its downs, and people have come and people have gone. But we've always maintained the same ideals. And as long as we've got new people coming in, and as long as they maintain those ideals, this club will keep doing what it does best, and that's charity work. Mm-hmm. That's really all we do.
Yeah, well, it's obvious from information I've seen about the Rooks that you are about charity. That's really neat. Your shows, various things, the money goes to good causes. So, Duke, thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show, and I like your 41 Chev.
Thanks, Lance.
Tony Diablo, cool car show. A lot of people talking about the traditional rides, but this really does look like cars looked like when I was in high school. 46 Ford Coupe, very cool. How did this come about?
Before I was riding a motorcycle and needed something a little more stable with the drivers around here, so we had a family friend that had it sit in his garage for a while, and we ended up making a deal with him. A couple months later, he passed away. So we've driven it by his mom's house and shown her, and she's pretty proud of it also.
What was your inspiration for the primer and the Appleton spotlights and everything else you've done to it?
A lot of it was budget. That's where we're at with that. I like the look. I mean, it's a hot rod I can drive. I can take it to rod runs and have it next to a vendor booth and not worry about it getting scratched up or whatever. I can go out and have a good time.
When you go to what is, say, a car show that there are full customs, stocks, you kind of your more traditional car show, not this kind of traditional stuff that looks just like they did back in the 50s, but more of a modern day car show. What kind of reception do you get from the other people in the car show?
Good. A lot of the old timers have fun with it. Under the hood, it's got a flat head. The old timers like to see that kind of thing. I'm just out here having a good time, the way it should be.
Mexican blanket upholstery.
Absolutely. Straight from Mexico.
If you had unlimited funds to put into this car, would you really keep the whole traditional hot rod thing going, or would you have a $20,000 paint job on it and a Chev 350 in it and a set of 20-inch wheels? Where would you go with it?
I'd probably keep it as traditional as I could. I'm actually thinking about doing airbags in the back now just to give it a different kind of stance. Paint job, definitely maybe something metal flake and scallops. Still sticking with tradition though. Steel wheels.
If somebody is new to the hobby, somebody's out there watching and wants to get into the hobby, what's your advice?
Don't be ashamed of four doors. A lot of people frown on them. They can be cool. Just if you got a good idea, go with it. If you're having a good time, go with it. If you're trying to fit in, that could get expensive. If you want to have a good time, do what you want.
Good advice. Tony, thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right. I am surrounded by a bevy of beauties who also no doubt have the capability of kicking my back end very easily. These are some hardcore roller derby queens here. Are you still roller derby queens?
Oh yes, very much.
What is your name?
My skate name is Catechism.
And you skate for?
My team is Pink Pistols, and we are Jet City Rollergirls.
And you are?
I am Beelzebub, and I skate for Carnival.
So these two over here, are you going to be going head-to-head with them here soon and whooping a little booty?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we plan to.
Anti-Grace over there has a hard time getting past us.
Well, we'll get to them in a second. Tell me, how did you end up being roller derby girls, queens, whatever?
Well, I found out about it when one of our sister leagues started up about 4 years ago, and I thought, no, I'll never do it. If I get hurt, I can't work. I'm just not going to be able to do it. And then when we started up here, I'm like, maybe they'll let me hang out with them. And here I am a year later, and I'm one of the pivots for our team. So.
And you're on what team again?
I'm on Team Carnival, and I do jamming, blocking, and pivot, so I'm multiplayer.
So jamming, blocking, and pivot sounds to me like you're doing a little contact.
I'm doing a lot of contact. The jammer will take the most contact as everybody tries to attack that person pretty much. The pivot is the one who holds the pack, and the blockers are the ones that try to get the jammer through. So being able to skate in all three positions is what everybody's goal is, pretty much.
These two over here seem to think they're pretty hot stuff. Can you take them out pretty easy?
Oh yeah, I've taken at least one of them out.
And you are?
I'm Elizabeth Hurlia.
I'm
with the Hula Honeys, the Hawaiian themed team.
The Hula Honeys, and you are?
I'm Anti-Grace, and I'm with the Camaro Harem.
Camaro Harem. How did you get into all this?
I had a friend who was helping out with the sister league, Rat City, and he was just telling me about it, and I was like, wow, that sounds like so much fun. I want to hit people and skate. So I only started in February, so I'm fairly new to the league, but I love it. Skating is addicting. You don't ever want to stop skating once you start.
When you first got into skating in roller derby, did you feel like, wow, I was made to do this, I was born to do this, or are you going around that track going, what the heck am I doing here?
Definitely, what the heck am I doing here? Most of the people, when I told them I was going to go out for roller derby, said I was way too small. And then I got out there and realized that there's a lot of big girls out there, but the small ones have a place too. But the big girls can hit really hard. So the small ones have to learn to go really fast.
The traditional hot rod culture seems to have really grasped the whole roller derby thing, which feels like a natural, but how did that come about?
Well, it's kind of the whole vintage idea, the pinup girls, the 50s style, that's all with the roller derby, bringing back the revival of roller derby.
What's the future of roller derby? I know it was huge when I was a kid. Is that likely to happen again?
We're very much hoping to get it back into a national standing. Right now we are still trying to determine which leagues are playing harder than others, so we'll hopefully be able to get classed more like a varsity and a JV. But once again, roller derby has only been around, again, on flat track for 4 years, so we are still starting out. Eventually, our goal would be to make it to the Olympics. I mean, that's where we would really like to see this go, is to see women empowered who are stay-at-home moms, who come from a wide variety of backgrounds, to all get together and enjoy themselves.
I don't know if this is a good comparison, but it seems like this is a little bit like ice hockey on wheels, in that you have a serious sport that's going on. These people are serious, but there is a bit of, it's pretty darn physical, and if you're timid at all, you're not going to make it in this. Is that right?
Yes, you got to be prepared to be hit. I've seen girls that before a big match or bout, they will get slapped by their teammates just to get ready to get hit and prepared to fall down, because no matter what, you're going to fall down, and it's fun.
That's kind of a coincidence, because Tim, my camera guy, he always slaps me before the shoots and sometimes after the shoots. So, ladies, thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show. Best of luck in your endeavors on the track. Miss Kitty Baby, you have the most interesting name that I have run across here today. What's that name about?
I had a work name. I work at sea, and on my boat I was named Kitty because I was one of the only female deckhands. And an engineer named me Kitty Baby one day, and it transferred over into my burlesque career as my stage name. It's also my pinup name, Miss Kitty Baby.
So we have burlesque and pinup here. How does one find themselves from working on a boat to then going into burlesque and pinup work?
Well, I've always had a lot of dualities. I am also a former military, so I have a very masculine side of things that I need to accomplish, but I like to exploit my femininity as well. And there's a lot of really wonderful activities in the vintage-inspired world that exploit the femininity, and it's a lot of fun.
And something that you are doing here at the Cruisin for a Bruisin car show today is very cool. It's one of the reasons I wanted to speak with you is you are selling pinups, photographs of yourself and some of the other women that are in the industry, and all the proceeds from those sales go to?
Our organization is called Pinup Angels. What we do is sell our pinup prints to raise money for care packages to send to our troops. When the money is raised, we take the funds, we go purchase the items for the care packages ourselves, we box them up, we include some pinup prints in them when we send them to troops that have been steered our direction in need of a little assistance. And that's what Pinup Angels does.
And pinups, if I had to name the top 20 things that were cool about America, one of them would be the bomber art on bombers during World War II, where it was a lot of them had your traditional pinup. Is that how you ended up doing this whole military thing? Is there any tie-in there, or just a respect for what the troops are doing?
Being a former Marine, I have always been very closely tied into Veterans Affairs and troop support. I try to get my community really involved in supporting troops, sending care packages, sending some morale, and this is just my latest project in doing that.
Ex-Marine, so I could be dead by the end of this interview if you chose to.
Former Marine.
You just knock them dead with charm now, right?
Absolutely.
Kitty baby, thank you very much for being on the Vintage Vehicle Show. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We have had a great time here at the Cruisin for a Bruisin car show in Everett, Washington. A big thank you to the Jet City Rollergirls and to the Rooks Car Club. great people, great cars. And we will see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye. You have a display here advertising what you do.
Lance, I've never seen you like this.
I'm actually flustered.